Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a huge idea from the one and only Adam Smith, one that tries to explain the price of, well, just about everything. Let's get right into it.
You know how it is. You go to buy something, and the price is different from last week or even yesterday. So what's really going on here? What invisible forces are pulling the strings behind the scenes? Well, it turns out Adam Smith gave us an incredible way to think about this.
To really get a handle on those wild, fluctuating prices, Smith tells us we have to start by looking for a stable center point. He called this the natural price.
Now, this natural price isn't just some random number. You can think of it as let's call it the long-term survival price for any product. It's the absolute bare minimum a seller needs to get to cover all their costs and make it worthwhile. If they can't get this price, that product is eventually just going to disappear.
Smith breaks this down into three key pieces. You've got rent for the land or space, wages for the labor to make the thing, and profit for the entrepreneur, the person who risked their own money, or stock as Smith called it, to get the whole thing off the ground. It's a really simple but powerful idea. If the price you pay doesn't cover all three of those things, that business just isn't going to last.
Okay, so that's the stable, natural price. But how does that connect to the price we're all a lot more familiar with, the market price? The actual number on the price tag.
The market price is all about what's happening right now. It's this dynamic, constantly moving number. It kind of dances all around that stable natural price we were just talking about. Sometimes it'll shoot way above it, sometimes it'll dip below, and every once in a while, it lands right on the money.
So, you might be asking, what makes it dance like that? Well, the key, according to Smith, is a really important concept he called effectual demand. This isn't just about who wants something. It's about who wants it and has the money to actually pay for it. That's the only kind of demand the market really pays attention to.
And Smith had this perfect, kind of brutal way of explaining it. He said, sure, a poor man might desperately want a fancy carriage with 6 horses. That's what we'd call absolute demand. But if he can't afford it, it means nothing to the market. Only demand that's backed by actual cash has the power to pull things into existence.
Okay, so we've got the natural price acting as our anchor, and we've got the market price floating around it. But what actually decides whether it floats up or down? Well, this is where supply and that all-important effectual demand finally come together.
Smith's metaphor for this is it's perfect. He wants you to think of the natural price as a center of gravity, like the sun, and the market price, that's a planet, constantly orbiting it. It's always being pulled back towards that center, even when other forces try to knock it off course.
So let's play this out. What happens when there just isn't enough of something to go around? When the supply out there can't meet what people are willing and able to buy? Well, a competition kicks off among the buyers, and that bidding war is what drives the market price up, sometimes way, way above the natural price.
And Smith's logic here is just so human. Rather than go without, people will simply pay more to get what they want. This totally explains why prices for essential things can just explode during a crisis, like a famine or a city under siege. The competition to survive becomes incredibly fierce.
All right, now let's flip it. What happens when the market is totally flooded with a product? Way more goods than there are people willing to buy them. Suddenly, the power shifts. Now it's the sellers who have to compete, and they start slashing prices trying to get your attention. And you can see how this competition gets even crazier for things that have a short shelf life. As Smith points out, a huge surplus of oranges that are about to go bad is going to cause a much bigger price drop than a surplus of something durable like scrap iron. Why? Because those orange sellers have to get rid of their product fast. But sometimes that planet, that market price, it seems to get stuck in a really high orbit. It defies that pull of gravity for a really long time. So why does that happen? What's going on there? Smith pointed out a few ways this can happen, but they all pretty much boil down to one thing. Somebody is restricting the supply. It could be a trade secret, like a fabric dyer who has a unique color formula nobody else can replicate, or it could be natural scarcity, like a very specific piece of land that produces an amazing wine. Or it could be man-made, like a company that has a monopoly.
Right, and on monopolies, Smith was crystal clear. The whole trick of a monopoly is to engineer a permanent shortage. By always keeping the market just a little bit understocked, they can squeeze every last dollar out of buyers, pushing the price to the absolute highest point people are willing to pay. But here's the thing. Even with all these disruptions, Smith's main point still stands. In a free, open market, that gravitational pull back toward the natural price, it's relentless. It's always there. And think about it this way. While a price can stay high for a while, it can almost never stay below its natural rate for very long. I mean, why would it? People don't stay in business to lose money. If producers can't cover their basic costs of rent, wages, and a little profit, they're just going to stop making that thing and do something else.
And that brings us right back to Smith's beautiful, central idea. No matter how far the market price strays, whether it's because of a bad harvest, a trade secret, or a monopoly, that force of gravity is always working, pulling it back towards that central price, that point of balance.
So, in the end, Smith's theory gives us this incredible lens for seeing the hidden order behind all those price changes we see every day. But it also leaves us with a really fascinating question for our own time. In today's world of global supply chains, crazy algorithms, and all sorts of regulations, what new forces are out there disrupting this natural gravity?